Hola, chicas. Welcome to 20 Questions With, a podcast in conjunction with Latinitas Magazine. Latinitas Magazine is a strong voice for Latina and POC youth, which is why the host of 20 Questions With are all young Latinas who are looking to gain experience in innovative and creative fields just like you. In each episode, you'll hear from striking individuals who are inspiring today's youth with their passion, motivation, and grit. Today, join Marisol Acuna as she sits down and asks 20 questions with Christina Jovanna Olivarez. Before we get started, here's what you should know about Christina. Christina is an award-winning social media strategist and TEDx speaker. She is the founder and CEO of the Social Butterfly Gal, a social media strategy company. Through VIP strategy days, trainings, resources, and education, Christina helps companies build their brand on Instagram with a strategy that increases impact and grows businesses. She has had the honor of training thousands of executive leaders nationwide through her signature training and has led social media for one of the largest cultural festivals in the nation. In addition to the work that she does at the Social Butterfly Gal, Christina co-founded a women's entrepreneurship conference and community called Hustle and Socialize. Hustle and Socialize brings together the most diverse women's business community in South Texas and curates life-changing experiences. Through the annual conference that takes place every June and summits and events, Hustle and Socialize empowers women to discover new ways to harness their unique strengths, elevate their skills, leverage their value, and better advocate for themselves and their companies. Christina serves on the board of New Leaders Council in San Antonio and is a proud member of the Poderistas Power Squad. We're so excited to learn more about Christina and what she does, so let's go ahead and get started with the show.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of 20 Questions With. I'm Marisol Acuna and I'm here with today's guest, Christina Olivarez. Thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, we're also very excited, so I guess we can get started with the questions. So my first question that I have today is, where did the idea of founding the Social Butterfly Gal come from? And can you tell us a little bit of the story of origin of how it came to be?
The Social Butterfly Gal came about after getting out of college and not being able to find a job. I had several internships throughout being a college student at Texas State University. I was a real go-getter. I was very involved in student organizations surrounding radio, television, and film. And even though I had all these internships, as soon as I got out of college, I just didn't have any luck. I would have all these interviews, but it didn't really lead into what I really wanted to do, which was be a reporter for a news company. And so when I got my first job, it was a news and video content director for a freelance website here in San Antonio. And while I was doing YouTube videos, I was managing their social media, and I was going around different businesses in San Antonio, highlighting them and creating, little commercials. And that's when I started to recognize the power of social media. And at that time, this was 2013. So at that time, social media wasn't where it is today. Businesses were barely getting on Facebook. Instagram had just launched. Twitter had been around. And so I just, after not really having that luck in the news business, one of my best friends told me, well, the reason why you can't find a job is because it hasn't been created. So go create it. And that kind of got the wheels turning. I started getting a lot more involved in public relations and in marketing. And finally, I just took that next step, that leap of faith, and I launched Social Butterfly Gal in 2015. And it's been the most amazing, wild, and craziest ride I've ever had in my life.
That's amazing. What were some difficulties you faced in the beginning?
So definitely one of the biggest difficulties is getting businesses to understand the importance of social media. Now, due to the global pandemic that we had, now we kind of understand, why almost every single business needs to have a social media presence and being engaged online. I gave a TED Talk recently, and in the TED Talk, I talked about how, social media is not just an option anymore, it's a necessity. And so I feel one of the biggest challenges in 2015 was getting older companies to adapt to these digital platforms and to understand where the marketing industry is headed. We still had a lot of people put a lot of their marketing dollars in radio and television and billboards. And so really I was 24 at the time and very young. And so, coming into these spaces where there was a lot more people that have had years and years of experience, behind their belts, being able to come in as a firecracker and as a young Latina too, it was kind of, scary and challenging. But one thing that was so certain is my passion for marketing, my passion for social media. I've been on social media or even just digital media since the age of 8 with AOL and MySpace. And so even though most of these people had, years of marketing experience, that doesn't discredit or discount the experience that I had as a kid, adapting to AOL and adapting to MySpace and understanding how the online experience works. And so I think that was definitely a huge challenge that I kind of faced in the beginning. And then definitely too, just networking and finding your place in this sphere. I think now it's a little bit easier to network because we do have that online component where you can easily get in touch with someone through LinkedIn, or you can get in touch with anyone on Twitter or on Instagram. But it's just finding those networking events and putting yourself out there and going by yourself. I think that is always kind of scary to think like, okay, well, I have to go to this networking event and I'm going by myself and I'm going to go and shake hands and meet people. But I think that was also the fun part, was being able to go and experience that and meet people and go for coffee. And I think like that too, even though it was a challenge, it was a lot easier once it happened. So definitely those two things.
Yeah. So you just hit a little bit on this, but do you think any of these trials or tribulations could have been avoided with the knowledge that you have now?
I always feel that everything that happens in your journey is a part of your journey. And I truly believe that, things happen for a reason. I love looking back though and seeing the evolution of my brand. And so I don't think they could have been avoided, but I do feel that in college, I wish we had a little bit more, or I wish I was involved a little bit more in business, because a lot of what I learned was really trial and error. And I do feel, had I maybe taken one business course, or maybe if I kind of knew that I was interested in something of that nature, I definitely feel it would be, a little bit better just to have that knowledge behind my belt. But, the good old trial and error, that's how you learn. Failing is such an important part of the journey. And I think I would never take any of that away or any of that back.
Yeah, that's a good answer. What is your brand's definition of social media success, would you say?
Yeah, so for sure, it's understanding how to be strategic on social media, how to use these platforms, not only for social good, but also to make an impact for your own business. I really work with my clients a lot to build out a strategy for whatever goal they're wanting to accomplish. So if that's to increase brand awareness, or to increase, revenue or sales, or to really just get out there for their business online. I definitely work one-on-one with clients. Every client has a different goal that they want to accomplish. I think personally, the biggest goal that I did accomplish and the biggest success that was really certain was during the time of a global pandemic, taking things from an in-person realm to an online medium and executing that very well, and being able to take my conference that I co-founded and being able to take that online and sell tickets through social media. I think that is such a success as well. So it really varies. Everything changes so quickly in social media. So it really varies between what the actual goal of the clients, what they really want and how they want to use their social.
That makes sense. What does a day in your life look like?
It's very chaotic sometimes. Definitely now that things are getting a little bit better, I definitely work out of coffee shops. But of course, during pandemic, I worked from home. But every day is very different. Some days I'm in meetings with, stuff for the conference. Other days I'm working one-on-one in what I have my offer called VIP days. That's like a whole day dedicated to working with my clients one-on-one. It's a 4.5 to 5 hour strategy session. So it definitely really depends. There's other days where I spend just creating content for my brand. On a specific day, I'll spend the whole day writing and batching content. And so every day is very different, but one thing is always certain. I'm always on social media. That's like one big thing. But yeah, I mean, every day is very different. And I think too, now that I have two businesses, you really have to learn how to manage your time wisely and understand where you need to bring in help. I had an assistant working with me. I'm going to be looking for a new assistant later in the summer, but it's kind of knowing, what to delegate and where you need to manage your time, because running two businesses, it takes two different mindsets and two different hats to wear. So every day is kind of really different. There's no set day.
Yeah, that's definitely something I also need to work on myself. Which social media platform do you believe has the strongest influence in a business or a content creator's outreach?
Yeah, so no doubt, Instagram is by far one of my favorite platforms, but also one of the world's top social media platforms. We saw an increase in people utilizing Instagram. I believe the increase was almost 50% of people gravitating towards Instagram. And so I'm an advocate just for your business being on Instagram. Due to the pandemic, everyone at the corporate Instagram started implementing new services. So they added, different features as like a shop feature, a donation feature. And so I do feel that Instagram is one that has a lot of influence that businesses should not sleep on. But of course, you're seeing, the rise of many different platforms, and you're seeing the rise of TikTok. Like TikTok has a huge influence on younger people as well as the music industry. Facebook's always there. We know Facebook is there, but a platform that I feel is very underrated is Twitter. I think that is a very, very powerful platform. So I truly feel, all of the social media platforms have different influences, but I truly feel for a business, the main ones are, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. But I really do feel like Instagram is the one that has skyrocketed since the pandemic as well.
Which social media platform is your personal favorite?
Instagram by far. So really, I think maybe it's a toss-up between Instagram and Twitter. My very first platform that I got was a Twitter. And obviously we're not counting like AOL or MySpace, but when we started getting into what we know social media to be now, that very first platform that I got was a Twitter. And I really learned, one, I got on it because I was a huge Grey's Anatomy fan, and Shonda Rhimes, the mastermind between Grey's Anatomy, she had got a Twitter, and I love spoilers. And so at that time I was 17, 18 years old. And I was like, I'm going to get on Twitter. And I really learned through college, how to network with people in your industry, how to network. Because I was in the news industry, a lot of journalists use Twitter. And so I was really networking with different anchors and producers. And so when it came to Instagram, I think that I had a sort of this brand that I was building on Twitter, but then I kind of executed that on Instagram because it's very visual. And so I feel like those two, if you could give me two platforms to keep for the rest of my life, I would so say Twitter and Instagram. Maybe Twitter a little bit more. I really do love Twitter.
Awesome. This one's a little bit more lighthearted. What has been your favorite social media trend recently?
Goodness, there's so many. I feel like TikTok keeps me on my toes. And I feel like, one, there's just so many talented creators out there. I'm so jealous at like their creativity, how they just like come up with these things, and the editing and the transitions, like I'm blown away. But I definitely feel like you can find so many fun ones. I'm just super big in like 2000s nostalgic stuff. And so there's this guy that I follow on Instagram and Twitter called Roderick. And he does like millennial comedy and just stuff targeted towards millennials that I just really enjoy. But I don't know. There's so many trends, right? Like there's so many dance crazes, and it's just really interesting to see the creativity behind some of your favorite people's accounts.
Yeah. Especially with the pandemic, everyone just kind of hopped on and started finding talents that they'd never realized they had.
It's like the dances. Like I remember my husband and I were, just going on TikTok and trying to find things that we couldn't bake, and, like dances that we could just learn to keep ourselves like occupied where we couldn't go anywhere.
I saw a tweet recently that was like, would TikTok have blown up without COVID-19? And I was like, you never know. Like, right, exactly. It's kind of crazy that we all just used it as an escape of being locked in our houses. If you could write a letter to your past self, what do you think would be the main point you would make?
Maybe like 3 points. Stop caring about what other people think. Stop worrying. Everything will work out, and go for it. I think fear holds us back a lot. I still get scared a lot of the time. I think also, trusting yourself. I would tell my past self to trust yourself a little bit more. But yeah, I mean, those are the things that I'm constantly working on in therapy right now. And so I'm constantly, even at 30, I mean, these are just similar concepts that I keep, going back to and working on. But definitely, I think back to like 18-year-old Christina, or even when I got out of college and I first started my business, I always think back to that person, and I'm like, girl, you need to chill. Things will be okay.
That's nice to hear from my perspective right now. Not gonna lie. I know you work closely with businesses, but what advice would you give a young content creator or writer or anyone that's trying to break into the social media scene?
Be yourself. I feel as authenticity, and we hear this from so many like marketers, and you hear it so much in the space, but it's so true. I mean, people can smell when people are fake, and people are attracted to people who are authentic. And I feel that if someone who is just trying to get themselves out there and create a brand or create a personal brand, they really need to kind of think about, what makes them super unique and what are their special qualities, and not try to mimic or copy what's already out there. But why do people want to follow you? What's one thing that makes you stand out? And I think too, it's funny when I look back at like the evolution of my brand, and something that was consistent throughout the board was I stayed true to myself. And I stayed true to like my personality in the news business, or when I was trying to break into the news business, I had, several news directors say to cut my hair, or they didn't want me to speak a certain way because it was, too high pitch, or my energy was a little too much. And I think what I love so much about just what I do and, starting my business and doing my business is I'm very unapologetic. And I'm just like, hey, this is me. I'm the girl that loves cats, and I take photos in coffee shops, and I'm just so true to who I have always been. And I think that is one basic necessity when it comes to building a brand.
Yeah, that's great advice. What do you like to do in your free time?
I love to hang out at coffee shops, whether it is for work or for fun. My husband and I really love to travel, and we're so happy that like now we're both fully vaccinated, and we're so happy that we're finally kind of getting back to what we love to do, but we really love to travel. We try to do at least, 3 to 4 sort of trips here and there throughout the year. We love exploring and seeing, just what the world. I'm a girl from the Rio Grande Valley, like a border girl. And it's funny because I live in San Antonio, but this is where my summer vacations happen because this is all we knew in terms of like a big city. So I think it's so cool to explore new places. It really changes your perspective about just life in general. But, I love to watch, Netflix and love to watch movies. I have a cat. I love cats. So I always play with her and we have fun. But yeah, I'm chill.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned that like traveling compared to like where you grew up. Like I grew up in Mexico, so our like vacations were to, I don't know if you know, but Rancho Viejo, like like my grandparents had a house there and we would just drive and it was like our whole summer spent there. So I totally relate to like now traveling abroad and being like, oh my God, this is amazing and so awesome.
I went to Paris for the first time. Like I traveled abroad for the first time in 2019, literally like right before the pandemic happened. And I'll never forget. I mean, just seeing the culture and seeing just all these things that you dream about. I really had tears in my eyes. It was just like this moment of, wow, just being able to have that opportunity. It was amazing.
Yeah, I completely relate to that. This is a pretty broad question, but who inspires you?
My grandma. I wish she was alive to see me right now. She passed away 5 years ago. And I think too, just her tenacity, her personality is very similar to mine. She was a go-getter. She really didn't stop until she was almost, at her deathbed. And I take that energy and I just, one day I wish that, I can see her again and just like talk to her. But yeah, she truly, truly inspires me. And I just have so many amazing things to say about her.
That's amazing. Do you think this was the job you dreamed of when you were younger?
Absolutely not. I wanted to be on the red carpet of like an Oscar or, I wanted to be an entertainment reporter. If I had like one dream job, I wanted to be a reporter for E! But you know what? Like dream job or not, like this is the dream. I get to create my own, programs and curriculum and my own brand. And I get to, work with amazing people. I've had incredible opportunities in the past several years, being able to have a TED Talk. I mean, that in the middle of a global pandemic, and being able to win an award and just being able to work with different organizations throughout the country. And so even though I wanted to be a reporter, I mean, nothing can compare to where I'm at right now. And I know for a fact that this is only the beginning. Like there's just so much more ahead. But yeah, definitely when I was a little kid, I wanted to work for like E! That's it.
Do you think that Latinx representation in big social media platforms will continue to grow and improve in the coming years?
I really hope so. And I feel like we need it more than ever, which is kind of why myself and my best friend started and co-founded our conference. We support Black and brown businesses. And one thing, just even as a Latinx business owner, I mean, I live in San Antonio and sometimes I would go to events and there would be no representation. And I thought that was so weird. And I was like, well, if they're not going to bring people to the table, then we're going to start our own table, And so I really hope that you see more of that because, we're here. We're rowdy. Get ready.
Yeah, so actually my next question is, I know you co-founded HNS or Hustle and Socialize conference and community. Could you tell us a little bit about how that came about and what the main focus of it is?
Sure. So when I had first started Social Butterfly Gal, one of the things that I wanted to accomplish in the 5 years, like my 5-year plan, was I wanted to have a women's conference because I just really love women empowerment and being in those spaces and just feeding off of energy. And at that time, I didn't know if I wanted to have that under my brand or, do something else with it. My best friend, she's been my best friend for 20 years. We met in the 5th grade. She was my maid of honor for my wedding. And while she was coming up here for my wedding, we started talking just about a conference and kind of to answer, that last question about just representation in our Latinx communities and how there was not a lot. There was no visibility. And one thing as being someone from the border is we don't have role models to like help us navigate business or help us navigate different things. And so we just started talking and one thing led to another. And I was nominated for an award. And in my interview, there was this woman there. And in order to like try to win the award, I was like, oh, I'm launching a conference. And at that time, there was nothing. Like, it was just like, I'm going to say this because I really want to win this award. And one of the women that was in the room, immediately after that interview, 1 hour later, she emailed me and was like, I really want to know more about your conference. And I was just like, well, I guess we're doing it because there's no other option. And so Hustle and Socialize, just started forming. We launched in 2018. We're a women's entrepreneurship conference we're based in San Antonio, Texas. But of course, due to the pandemic, we are now sort of that virtual and in person, hopefully getting back to in person next year. But yeah, we are a space for Black and Brown businesses. We do everything from, personal development to business development. We help women just understand bits and pieces of their business, and we bring in amazing leaders. And what we really want is for women in businesses to excel. We want to see those collaborations. We want to see those, those earnings and the revenue, and just really help other businesses gain, that visibility. And so we're in our 4th year and we're actually in conference mode right now. Our 4th annual conference is next month in June. And so, yeah, it's definitely a labor of love, and we're very excited. We've grown so much in the past 3.5 years. So it's just so exciting to see the impact that Hustle and Socialize has had in such a short amount of time.
What would you say are the core components of your business strategy?
For Social Butterfly Gal, I definitely feel, I run on these values of being authentic and diversity, equity, and inclusion, and, just having integrity and community. I really, truly believe that you need community and you need to have these relationships, and community changes everything because you can't do it alone. And I feel that in business, I've really learned that it is a community effort. It is, one person can refer you to your next, big client. So I really value that as well, of just meeting people and building that piece of community.
What was the best part about being able to give a TED Talk?
God, there's so many amazing parts to it. I think that was my first time actually when I went to the stage. That was my first time around people at that point from the pandemic. So I think that was a cool part. But I think too, in all honesty, I had been dreaming about a TED Talk. I've watched so many TED Talks at the start of my business. I never thought that I would be as a TEDx speaker in the same company as some of my biggest role models in life and in business. And I think too, it's so powerful to be up on that stage, to have the lights dim, to see the TEDx thing in the back, and being able to share an idea to not only your local community, but to the world, because it's on YouTube. So anyone can go on YouTube and find it. But it was such a beautiful moment, and a beautiful moment too for Latinx representation. And so I think for that, I'm always going to have my gratitude to the people who nominated me for that, and just being able to be on that stage and to share with the whole world my passion for social media.
What motivates you to keep working hard every day?
I think too, future generations. So my husband and I don't have kids right now, but I do think about, if I get really lucky to have a child, or even just my cousins who are younger, or friends that I know who have children, or just, people that I know that are younger. And I think about, all the different hardships that so many other generations have gone before us. and where we're at right now in this moment, how much we still have to go for women. I think that really truly inspires me to keep going, because the work that I'm doing right now, it's not, it's for me, but it's not for me. It's like I'm helping knock down those doors, the ceiling. It's for all those other people that are going to come after me. And I really truly believe that, like on days where entrepreneurship is hard, especially now in this, in the pandemic, there have been times where I'm like, is this what I'm supposed to do? Am I meant for this? Like, what if I just, what if I quit? Or, you just have all these questions because it is so uncertain, and you have to be in entrepreneurship, like you have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. And I'm someone who is not like, I need plans. I need to know what's going on. I'm a strategist at heart. So give me a problem and I'm going to try to solve it. And when you don't really know what's going to happen next, that freaks me out. But I think it's moments like that where I think about, someone who maybe wants to start their own business one day. And maybe someone who wants to, not only, maybe they don't want to start a business, but maybe they want to get the courage to speak out on a specific issue and they're so scared to do it. It's things like that that really keep me going.
That makes sense. What would you say is your favorite part about your day-to-day job?
Meeting people. Being able to connect with just like so many amazing business owners or just people in general. I love networking and I love talking to people and meeting people. And I think it's so fun I love events, but I think it's just so fun to meet people and what they're doing in life and get inspired by them and their work. I think also just creating videos and creating content. It's so fun. But it's just like the people that I've had the opportunity to work with. That's always the fun part.
On a lighter note, what 3 items would you want with you if you were on a deserted island?
Cats. Lots of cats. Could be my cat, but just cats in general. Coffee. Can't live without my coffee. I am going to say my husband, sure. But if it's an item, coffee, cats, and my phone, even though I don't know how that would work. But
well, of course, if you need the social media.
Right? Like some form of entertainment, some form of like a way. But yeah. Coffee and cats is like the top 2.
Of course. And that actually was my last question, but I'm going to cheat and ask you one more. Who's your favorite Grey's Anatomy character?
Oh, my goodness. That's hard. So, Christina Yang, by far, I would say like she is definitely my favorite. I don't have a tattoo. I'm scared of like needles and tattoos, but if I ever got the courage to get a tattoo, I would get her quote, "Have some fire, be unstoppable, be a force of nature," she said in season 4. I feel like that is something, if I were to get a tattoo, I would do that. But Christina as a character, but oh my God, Meredith and Derek, like their love. I stopped watching after he died, but then I heard and saw that he was back. And so I was tuning in and I was like, oh my God, like these 2 characters still have it after all these years, even if he's in the beach or whatever he's in right now.
Well, thank you so much. That was all the questions I had for you today. So thank you so much for taking the time to come on here and talk to us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
If you're interested in pursuing a media career, make sure to visit us at latinitasmagazine.org for more information. Thank you guys so much for tuning into this episode of 20 Questions With. We'll see you next time.